Welcome to the second episode of The Comeback, where we sit with Nevada's leaders in athletics and business to talk about sports, hope, and recovery during the pandemic. It is so exciting to be here today at the Las Vegas Raiders headquarters and the Intermountain Healthcare Performance Center in Henderson, the new home of the Las Vegas Raiders. We have two amazing guests today, the president of the Las Vegas Raiders, Marc Badain, and our good friend from the Vegas Chamber of Commerce, Mary Beth Seawald. Now, before we kick off our conversation with Marc, Mary Beth, how amazing is it to say those and hear those words, Las Vegas Raiders?
It is absolutely unreal. I am so excited to have the Las Vegas Raiders here in what has become my hometown. It's going to be great for business. It's just so exciting to have Marc and the team here. It's really galvanizing everybody and getting people excited. So I'm just so thrilled, though, too, to be a partner with the Henderson Chamber of Commerce. Scott Muhlrath and his team have done a wonderful job putting this series together, The Comeback. We want to thank our sponsors as well. United Healthcare, Health Plan of Nevada, Las Vegas Raiders, of course, and Wells Fargo.
And the College of Southern Nevada.
And it's also part of the Business Information Network that we've put together as a response to the COVID-19 pandemic. It's been a great resource for us to be able to get information and resources out to the business community here in Southern Nevada and the whole state.
Thank you for being a part of this. We love these conversations. There is so much that we can learn from sports coming into business. Marc, a lot of leaders are going through some challenges right now, some challenging times. And I think leaders at all levels go through periods in their careers where they probably look back and go, how did we get through that? But if we look at your career, really over the past 8 or 9 years with the franchise, you're already running an NFL franchise. You're looking to relocate, you're working with Los Angeles, then you start working with Las Vegas. It becomes official. You're building a stadium, you're building a practice facility, which, by the way, if you hear some construction, it is literally under construction right now. And we do not complain when things are under construction in Las Vegas. And so you're getting ready for the move, and then the virus hits. How have you and your team just kept moving forward?
You referenced this has been about an 8-year process. So the organization's really been in a transition mode for a long time, and you learn a lot about your people during those times of adversity and how they handle those types of transitions. So as you mentioned, we were working on solving the stadium issue for the organization for a while. Then we went into the Los Angeles process. We learned a lot in that 1 year. And then Las Vegas really came out of nowhere when you actually start to tell the story of how the idea went from inception to being about 44 days away from completion, and it was done in 4.5 years. It's unprecedented. It's really something that I don't think we'll ever see in our sport or maybe any sport in terms of how this community, as you said, galvanized around this project and really turned it into a reality and did it very quickly. The organization is made up of very talented people, some of which have been with us for decades, and some have been with us for a couple of weeks. But they've all come in with the right mentality. They all understand the importance of this project. They all understand the importance of the project both before and after the virus really hit, and what it's going to mean now from an economic catalyst, from an economic stimulus standpoint, to bring people back to Las Vegas, to provide that tourism boost. And the numbers are going to justify it. So it's a good example of a public-private partnership, and it's working.
How have you grown as a leader during that time?
You learn a lot about your people, and you learn who you can trust, and you can learn who can really rise to the occasion in times like this. And I knew we had really good people there. They just needed an opportunity to show it. And you've seen it in the community. You've seen it with the project itself. You've seen the stadium come to life and this facility come to life, and they're even better looking than the renderings. And you learn to trust the people that you've grown up with in some cases, or the ones that you've just gotten to know, and rely on them to do the job that you set out for them to accomplish, and they've delivered.
Mary Beth started talking about the impact on the community in your first two comments, the community. What role does sports play in a community?
Starts when you're a kid. It's one of the first activities you do outside of your family. You go to school, you play sports. So it's really the first time you learn teamwork and the first time you learn how to get along with others, sometimes well, sometimes not so well. And then it becomes a part of a community's infrastructure and a part of a community's identity. So there's only 30 cities that have NFL teams, and Las Vegas is now one of them. That's a big deal. You saw what happened when the hockey team came here, and you saw how excited this community was and what it meant and what it did not just locally, but what it did nationally and internationally. It was really the story of the year, their first season. And we have that same opportunity here with the opening of this stadium. I'm obviously biased, but it's the most beautiful building in the world. It's not even close. And you look at it in the landscape of the skyline and what a beautiful addition it is to Las Vegas skyline, and then what it's going to mean for this community to have an NFL team, both for the local community and for the tourism that it's going to bring here. And it's a great addition.
How about, same to you, what role does sports play?
Well, I think sports plays an amazing role in the business community. Like I said, you guys are going to galvanize this place. They're already rallying around the team. They're just so excited. And I think the economic impact is what is so exciting to the Vegas Chamber and our members, because not only will it impact tourism, I sit on the LVCVA board, and so we talk about heads in beds a lot, but it's really going to impact those smaller businesses that will benefit from all the tourism and all the new folks coming to town just to see the Las Vegas Raiders. And so the economic impact on the little mom and pop stores that normally wouldn't have that type of exposure, now they're going to get that because of the Las Vegas Raiders.
You talked about the process, how quick it actually went. January 29th, 2016. Obviously, there was some conversations before, but that's when it became public. Yourself and owner Marc Davis came out and spent the day meeting with some leaders from Las Vegas. When did you know Las Vegas was where the Raiders needed to be?
I can't pinpoint a specific date. I'll say that from that first meeting, who we met, and it was a combination of UNLV, the resort corridor, municipal leaders, and we met with them all very, very quickly. And you could tell they were all coordinated. You could tell they had all had conversations. You could tell they were all excited about it. And there were a few key milestones that everyone identified. And then we went about accomplishing them. And we started with the Adelson family and Governor Sandoval, and then Chairman Hill from the Syntic Committee, and Clark County Commissioner Sisolak, who then became the governor. You start talking about all the people who can make those types of things happen in a city like this. And they were all behind it, and they were all together. And that's not always the case. That's not always the case in what we've seen in other markets. It's not always the case in what we've seen from other teams in other markets. There's usually some pretty strong outside forces trying to be an obstacle to that. And here you had none of that. You had everybody coming together. They all identified how good it was going to be for the community. And they said, let's go get this done. And the timing of it was fortuitous, just where we were in the stadium process. And our lease was expiring, and so we had that opportunity. And then it was a lot about convincing the league. So if you had to ask me when I thought it was real, I think when we knew we had the league on board, which was a few months into the process, and it started to get momentum, it started to get real. But from the first meeting we were here, it was real here. And you saw it in the people that were involved, and you saw it in the leadership that you witness all the time here, and how people come together and put these projects together and do what's right for the Vegas community.
Two things about that question and that answer stand out to me. Number one, our community has such a can-do attitude because we have had to recruit, and because so many people have pushed us away for different reasons, that we've had to come together, whether it's the business community, whether it's how we work with government. So that's great, you coming from the outside, seeing that right away. And then as someone who's born and raised here and been involved in sports, that was a special day for me because I remember getting an early email that day from Andy, our friend with Sands, with the Adelson family, saying, Marc Badain and Marc Davis are in town. Would you have time in your group, the Las Vegas Events Group and Jim Livengood? We know you're working with the NCAA, trying to get championships and working on sports betting. Would you have time to meet today? And I remember having to reread that. And then, we came in, like I said, very quick meeting. And I remember getting in my truck to leave, and I said those words out loud, Las Vegas Raiders. And he said, wow, those are two brands that can coexist. And here we are. Thank you. Has anything surprised you about working with those in Las Vegas, in Henderson, in the state of Nevada?
We've explained that this is a get-to-yes town. And they saw it themselves when we were working on the plans for the draft, which ultimately had to get rescheduled. That was some of the feedback we got from the NFL events team, is that this is very refreshing. You've got a group of people that, instead of coming up with challenges, they're saying, well, here's how we get around that, here's what we can do this is what we've done for that event, and they've been through it. So that large-scale event mentality that exists here blends really well with the large-scale event mentality of NFL games, Raider games, NFL events, all the other championship events you mentioned and that we're going to bring here. This city's just ready for it. This city is built for it. This city has the infrastructure, just needed the stadium as that last piece in order to attract all of those events.
So speaking of infrastructure and stadiums, we're sitting in a world-class stadium here. We've got a little construction noise going on. You've got Allegiant Stadium, of course. How do these facilities lend themselves to the sports business aspect?
Well, it starts with your customers and your employees. So how do you want to treat your employees? Where do you want them to work? You want them to have the best facilities so that you can then turn around and present the best product to your customers. So if you start here at the headquarters in the Intermountain Healthcare Performance Center, you're talking about the premier facility in the league. We've been to all of them. We've been to the newer ones. We've been to the older ones. We've been to the renovated ones. We've done a lot of study and a lot of work. And we have people who have been with the organization a long time that were able to design specific areas that make the most sense for their particular part of the organization and how that's going to help the players. Every little advantage you can think of to make sure that the players are ready on game day, that the coaches are ready on game day, and then they're prepared. And then you start talking about the business aspect of it and what that means for your customers. You then talk about Allegiant Stadium. And the goal is to provide the best customer experience, the best game day experience in the league, the best game day experience in the world. Again, going back to Las Vegas, this is the entertainment capital of the world, and they know hospitality. And so we're going to be able to merge that and bring that experience into Allegiant. The facilities themselves they're just gorgeous. They're just absolutely beautiful facilities. You've got Allegiant being nicknamed the Death Star. So we need to come up with a good nickname for this one. Nobody's given us a good one yet. So if you've got any suggestions, we'll take them.
Lightsaber?
Oh, that's not bad.
You heard that from Mark. They're looking for suggestions. Mary Beth, the Vegas Chamber played a major role in making the stadium a reality, and Allegiant Stadium is an absolute game changer for Las Vegas. From a business perspective, what are the ways it'll impact the city?
Well, you're right, DJ. It's a total game changer for not only our culture in Las Vegas, for business, the economy, for tourism. And kind of like we said before, it's going to really supercharge the economy in Las Vegas. And right now, at a time when we need heroes from sports. You know, we look to heroes, we look to coaches and CEOs of companies like Mark and the athletes. And I think now will be a good time to really supercharge the economy and to really help people kind of find some hope again. So it'll be great for the culture, great for our souls.
You just think about all the opportunities from college bowl games, championship games, Final Four, huge concerts, different conventions that like to gather a lot of people. It was a missing piece for Las Vegas, and the Raiders helped to bring that. Well, now let's talk a little bit on the field. Been with the organization almost 30 years, and understand, again, if you hear some of the noise, it's his fault because we're building right now, and we love it. We love every single minute of it. Obviously, you run the business aspect off the field, but it's about what happens on the field. It's so important on those Sundays. What excites you about what's going on right now with the Silver and Black on the field?
I always tell employees, if you don't like game day, it's probably time to find a different job. You're not going to enjoy the work that goes into getting to game day. And I'm excited for everyone in Las Vegas to feel that excitement, to be in a stadium with 60,000 plus other folks and come down to the last minute of a game and watch the team win. That's really what this job is all about. And this job is all about winning. We say, just win, baby, and that's really what it's about. It's going to be a wonderful moment when we kick off, and it's going to be a wonderful moment for everyone in Las Vegas. It's a wonderful moment for the team and for the Davis family. For me personally, you said I've been here 30 years. Some years have been better than others. I'm excited what John and Mike are building together. They've put together a good blend of youth and veterans. And we saw some progress last year, and I think you'll see a lot of progress on the field this year. I'm always a fan of investing in the guys up front, offensive and defensive lines, and I feel very strongly that they've invested in both free agents and draft picks and homegrown talent in both of those areas.
As fans, it's easy for us to pick out those skilled player guys, and as fans, but we know the improvement last year up front, the improvement this year with 5 free agents. They'll probably be starting on defense. But when it comes to marketing and some of those skilled players, there's a lot of young, talented guys that I think Las Vegas is going to get excited about.
Yeah, we have some good personalities, and they're really good men, and they're really going to be good community leaders. You're starting to see it. You've seen it in the past. And in addition to the current team, you have our most valuable asset, which is our alumni. And we do as much and probably more for our alumni than any team in any sport. And that's been important to Mark. It was important to his father. And a lot of them have either moved here or are going to move here. They're part of the family, and you'll see them in the community as well.
Right, you talk about the character. Obviously, Derek Carr, very much a character guy. Had a career high over 4,000 yards passing last year. Josh Jacobs, one of the top rookie running backs from last year. Darren Waller, one of the best tight ends. And the draft was all about, those skilled guys. So, again, we know it's one up front, and it's as great of a team sport as any sport. But it's just going to be a lot of fun, and we're excited about that. Now, you mentioned Coach Gruden. And, of course, a lot of us just loved watching him on ESPN, working with the quarterbacks, loved watching him on Monday Night Football. How's Coach been to work with?
We'll go back to '98. We got to work with him before he was on ESPN and Monday Night Football. We got to know him when he was a 34-year-old head coach. And this is a series on leadership. And how many 34-year-olds can you see have that kind of impact? And you saw it instantly. You saw it instantly in the building. When he came in 1998, you saw the improvement. You saw the way the team followed him, and you saw the way the fans followed him. And he gained this cult following among the Raider fans that's deserved. And he cares very deeply about this brand. He cares very deeply about that logo. He cares very deeply about the Raiders, and it's important to him. And he didn't take coming back lightly. He thought about it for a long time, and he wanted to make sure it was the right decision. And he's wonderful to work for. I mean, he's very demanding, but he needs to be. He's the head coach, and he's a leader, and we follow that leader. And it's going to be fun having everyone under the same roof. You mentioned earlier that we've been in 2 different markets, and so there hasn't been the ability to have everybody in one place. And so to have the football team here finally and the coaching staff here blending with the front office staff and everyone that's been migrating to Vegas over the last 3 to 4 years, it'll be good for the organization and good for Coach to get that exposure to everybody else in the building.
Well, we're glad to have Coach here. Glad to be here in Las Vegas with the Raiders. But I tell you what, right now, let's learn a little bit more about Mark and about Mary Beth. It's time for us to take a timeout. All right, hard-hitting journalism here. 5 questions, same questions for you each. We're going to start with Mark. 3 of your favorite all-time movies.
I'd probably give you the standard Godfather, Shawshank Redemption. For the third, I'll give you a curveball and a comedy. It's Midnight Run.
Okay.
De Niro, Charles Grodin, late 80s comedy.
Hear the first 2 a lot. The third one is a curveball.
Give it a watch.
All right. Maybe.
I have several, and they're all different types. I love all John Wayne movies because I'm a country kid from the Midwest, so my dad loved John Wayne. Gone with the Wind is another favorite. And I love the movie Avatar, believe it or not. So,
Getting some unique answers. Yep. We like this.
How about yourself?
Shawshank's always in there. It's a Wonderful Life. And then Gladiator.
Okay.
We'll take those. First concert you ever went to?
Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
same.
Really?
Wow.
Now,
Yeah.
where was your...
Rochester War Memorial,
In,
early 80s.
LA.
Okay. All right. What would your perfect meal be?
My wife's a pretty good cook, so probably something that she would pick. For dessert, I'd go with bananas Foster.
This is a smart man right here. That is a smart answer. Perfect meal.
Perfect meal. My perfect meal would be my dad's barbecue with his homemade ice cream.
Okay. So I guess when we were writing these questions, we were hungry because the next question's about food as well. Your favorite guilty pleasure snack?
Probably those Haribo gummy candies. I see those all over the place, so that's probably what I'm on right now.
All right.
Again, it's got to be homemade ice cream,
I like it.
any flavor.
We're seeing a rhythm over here. And last one. Best leadership advice you've ever received?
I think it's more actions than it is necessarily some sort of phrase or advice. Mr. Davis was really good about making sure you were being told the truth. I think he was good at asking questions that he knew the answers to already to make sure he knew he could trust you to give him the information. I'm a big Bob Iger fan, and we had an opportunity to meet him 5 years ago when we were working on the LA process, and just watching him and how he interacted with his employees and some of the decisions I saw him make just in the brief time.
Best advice?
My best leadership advice came from my mom. She said, always be passionate about what you do. If you're going to do it right. And just hard work ethic. And at the end of the day, do the right thing.
Do the right thing. All right, our timeout is over. Let's get back to the comeback. We named this series The Comeback for a reason. Why is it so important to businesses around the state of Nevada right now?
Well, DJ, I think we have a lot of similarities. The businesses are looking for that needed infusion of cash. A lot of similarities in terms of we look for businesses and employees who are, competitive, passionate about what they do. And so I think people are just so excited to have the Las Vegas Raiders here not only in Southern Nevada, but across the entire state. You go to the Northern Nevada and the rurals, everybody in the state is really proud, home means Nevada, and they're so proud to have the Las Vegas Raiders. So I think it's so important, not only for the business community, but for all of us personally.
Business is a team sport. Our state, we're one team. How similar do you believe teams in sports are with teams in business?
Identifying the right people. Identifying your strengths, accentuating those strengths, and then identifying your weaknesses and trying to combat those. So if you're building a football team, you start with your division and who you have to beat in your division, and you go from there. And then when you start talking about your business, who are your competitors and who are you trying to beat? And then you have to go about establishing the right culture in your organization, hiring the right people, providing the best resources, and then giving them direction and vision. And so we've had this as sort of a North Star for a long time, was solving the stadium project. We went about doing it. We're about 6 weeks away from it. And any other business is going to look at it very similarly. They're going to have a series of short-term goals and a series of long-term goals, and you have to make sure you're focusing on them with the right people and the right resources.
You mentioned people quite a few times. What are the traits that you look for in people when you're building out your team?
Well, you start with intelligence, work ethic. You probably should have a sense of humor in this business. You should be humble in this business because you feel the pain of the losses more than the joy of the victories, and you have to put them behind you pretty quickly. And then you have to have the ability to get along with a very diverse group of people. You have the football team, then you have the front office, then you have all of your customers. You better be adaptable.
So much we can learn about ourselves through sports, and you grew up in a sports family. Tell us a little bit about that environment and about what that taught you and what you've taken into your career.
Well, it's funny because I grew up with an older father and 3 big brothers. And I'm the baby of 5 kids, a total tomboy growing up out in the Midwest. And we were competitive. If I wasn't tough as a little girl, I wasn't going to get very far. And playing with the boys out in the mud, riding motorcycles, riding horses, and shooting guns, and doing all those things we do out in the Midwest, it just really gave me a great foundation for that competitive edge, and to be tough. Because in the business world and in the sports world, you can't have a real thin skin. You have to get in there and dig deep and find that heart that it takes to not only survive, but to win the game at the end of the day.
And that's where we are right now. So many of us, there's so much uncertainty, and that's the biggest drain for so many people with their energy is we love to have certainty. As a leader right now, in an industry that there is a ton of uncertainty. There just is. But you're trying to keep your business team focused on moving forward. How do you lead during this time of uncertainty?
You just have to inform people of what's going on. The uncertainty can breed discontent. So you want to make sure they have the most up-to-date information for what you think may happen or what you think may not happen. And this is a good group of people that have been through it for a number of years, and they are adaptable, and they're ready for the challenges. And when we have answers, we'll put together the right plan for whatever those factors that are out of control dictate to us. And I'm excited about the season. I'm obviously waiting for some answers the way you are, but I think the NFL will do the right thing, and I'm looking forward to opening that stadium.
Overall, what mindset is needed for a group of people or individuals to come back from a devastating loss or from a challenge?
You always look to the defensive backs because they say you got to forget the bad play. You don't really hear their name very often, and they have to have a short memory. So they've provided some good advice in the past, and we've had some great ones. We're fortunate in that if you lose a game, you haven't won the next week, obviously, until the end of the season. So you have that ability to come back. You have that ability to identify the mistakes pretty quickly, address them, and then fix them for the next week. And you can apply that to any business situation. You have to reflect back on what you did well and what you did poorly. There's some things we did during this 5-year process that we did really, really well, and there's some things that we would like to change. Thankfully, we'll never have to build another stadium, so we don't have to do it again. But if people want some advice, we'll be able to provide it. But this sport, especially football, gives you that opportunity for instant analysis, for instant feedback, for instant coaching, and it is a good analogy for the business world.
We've loved spending this time with you. We love the background noise. If you can't hear it, it's us growing. But do you have any final words of encouragement to the business leaders across the state of Nevada?
It's a pretty resilient town, a pretty resilient state, and what we've seen they should be really, really proud of. And it started well before we got here, but I think the growth of Las Vegas and the diversity of Las Vegas and the diversity of Northern Nevada and the companies that are coming here, they're starting to see what this state really has to offer. And we've had a chance to see it and work with it. So while I know it's tough right now, and I know we're going to have some really tough decisions as a state to get through, we'll be a part of bringing some hope and some economic stimulus to the state. It'll come back. This place has done it before. You've seen it. You've been here your whole life, you said. So you've seen it multiple times. You've seen it. We've seen it in a short amount of time, and we'll do it again.
And we're so glad you're here. Mary Beth, anything that you want our business leaders to know?
Well, I think Mark hit the nail on the head. You know, as you look at what's happened, we look at mistakes or we look at problems and challenges that we've had, like in sports, you have to shake it off. You just have to shake it off and try to strategize, do your best to learn your lessons from the past, and then strategize for the future and make your plan and work the plan.
Mary Beth, thank you. Mark, thank you. We hope that you've enjoyed our second episode of The Comeback. We'll be back in 3 weeks when we sit with Carrie Bubbles, the president of the Vegas Golden Knights, and Peter Guzman, the president of the Latin Chamber of Commerce. Until then, remember, business is a team sport, and we're rooting for you. Be great.